Hey YouTube, welcome back to Universe X, and today we are actually here to get back into the Dragon Ball Super side of things. And I told you guys, it was gonna happen. It was just, the way things fell out. My local store, Huzzah Hobbies, kind of hooked me up with a little bit of a situation. And so I wanted to kind of immediately pivot and, record off of that. So if you haven't seen it yet and you like Digimon, or you're thinking about looking at how the cards kind of just look and whatnot, I've got a double starter deck opening that I just did for yesterday's video. So that being said, I am here to now talk about the next chapter in Shifts of Power. This time it would be focused on Blue. So if you were happy that I'm doing some more Dragon Ball Super content, because there have been a couple videos that have been discussions and then, Digimon, then you should go down and hit that like button so that the Dragon Ball Super content friends, subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, join Universe X, we're doing a whole lot of things, and just press the notification button so you never miss a beat. Around these parts, we do Dragon Ball Super, we are getting into Digimon, and later we'll be getting into One Piece to kind of pull out that trifecta. And I'm really just trying to be one of the better, if not one of the best TCG people that you happen to watch, content creators, I suppose that's the word. So, getting into this, Shifts in Power Blue, before, when I did this on Red, which you guys can always just go back and check, it'll be in the description, I want to discuss how the latest ban/limit/errata list affected a color, along with the introduction of cards from Ultimate Squad. So with Blue, when it comes to the list, very, very minuscule things to talk about. Only one thing got touched, and that's Soul Striker. Now, if you guys were around for the beginning of the game, the way Soul Striker originally worked was he was the starter deck leader. He was the first leader to come out of starter deck. Vegeta came out of the pack, he came out of the starter deck, and so he was really the OG. Fitting, being a Goku. But his ability was when he swung, you could untap an energy. When he's at 4 life or less, he can awaken, drawing 2, and now he can swing to draw 1 and untap 2 blue energy. His last little effect that was kind of neat was once he had 5 more energy, he gained 5,000 attacks, so he could start really pressuring in that late game. Very, very strong card. But eventually, his downsides kind of became too slow for the game. Before, you could use self-awakening cards to take him down, but the key was, much like it kind of is today, awakening at high life totals using results of training. Now, moving past that, you now have the current Soul Striker, the rebooted Soul Striker. His ability on the front side is that he can swing, and then you can choose one effect. You can either draw a card or untap a blue energy. Cool. But when he's at 4 or less life, or you have a 3-cost unison, blue unison in play, you can awaken him, and that's going to, of course, draw 2 cards, and now his ability when he swings is to draw a card and untap 2 blue energy. Now, this, and then also at the end of your turn, you can untap a blue unison that costs 3. So if you have any blockers, they kind of get their double value off of swinging and then untapping the block due to his effect. Now, the thing about this leader, though, is that he was high-key generic. Blue is no stranger to keeping its life total high. It's a very, very defensive color and has the best utilization of energy. So because of this, Soul Striker entered in quite a few games where they could awaken, because they're 3-drop unison, especially if they go first, they can awaken at 6-7 life. If they were able to protect, or you had a faulty start and you really couldn't pressure them, there are times where they awaken at 7 life, and then you have to deal with Soul Striker having the best energy economy in the game while being at such a high life total, and you don't want to let a blue deck make it to turn 4 or 5 with 5 or 6 life. That is dangerous. You just don't want that to happen. So, the issue that we were getting is that you have so many blue leaders that are more aggressive, blue leaders that are more defensive, blue leaders that have interesting gimmicks, blue leaders that have more combo plays. However, none of these mechanics, none of these playstyles were safer and more consistent than just untapping 2 and drawing 1 upon a swing. Not only did this make it so that this leader has the ability to play on curve but never tap out, If it needs to, this leader can play above curve to a degree. They can play cards, and then they can play another pseudo, play. And that's what they were always able to do in old Soul Striker too. You could play your main play, untap 2, play a 2-drop, play a 1-drop, keep 1-2 energy open. And this just has become a scourge for quite some time. Soul Striker was rebooted pretty much at the start of this Unison Warrior block. That's set 10. We are now on set 17, and Soul Striker was the de facto blue deck for most, if not the entire time in between. Now granted, there are some other blue decks that cropped up. People found success with decks like SS4 Vegeta, Bojack, but these were always kind of almost like point provers. Like, you could have just played Soul Striker and probably had an easier time, because Soul Striker was just that generically good. There was no real reason to step outside of your Soul Striker box unless you wanted to specifically prove a point. Now, granted, some of these did have their matchups and whatnot, but that is the thing. So, what do they want to do? The major part of this ban list was removing themes of the game that made the game / the meta / the playing field feel homogeneous. They got rid of Fighting and Fate and Secret Identity because these cards were just slotted into every single deck to do the same thing. They got rid of Piccolo, not only because Piccolo is so strong, but because Piccolo made any other 2-drop red Unison almost unplayable. They took Goku and they eroded him by removing his Self-Awaken ability, to make sure that now you had to start looking at other blue leaders, and that is exactly what you are now doing if you're a blue player, if you were thinking about playing blue. Goku no longer can play a 3-drop Unison and Awaken, which means that Goku has to get down to 4 life, and there's only 2 ways to do this. Either A, run Self-Awakening, which has a cascading effect. 1, you were running cards to take your own life. And if your opponent knows that that's what you're going to do, they can play into that and save a lot of their aggressive resources or push plays for when you've already brought yourself down to an acceptable life total. They can drop you from 5 to 3 because you took yourself down to 5. They can let you go down to 4 and then unload the entire shack on you. Like, there are things that can happen. There are ways that you could be left not safe. So with that in mind, you also have the other way, which is just allowing your opponent to pressure you down. But this is also perilous because your opponent can stop pressuring you when they feel like they don't need to. Oh, he's very, very strong. But you know what? I have a weak hand and I do not feel like pressuring him. So I'm just gonna let him sit here unawakened, and I'm gonna build my board while he can only untap 1 energy or draw per turn. So now that that is the case for Soul Striker, we are at a point where Soul Striker is no longer the de facto best blue deck. There's a huge power vacuum, and it's not like Soul Striker's out of the running, because don't get me wrong, Soul Striker can still be played. In fact, I think with red decks, you could get aggressive enough to play a bunch of Self-Awakeners that are in theme and just go in. Heck, even some of the blue cards, like, I mean, you have things like Pan and stuff like that. Blue has some Self-Awakeners too. Soul Striker is not dead. Do not get that twisted. The issue, not even the issue, the good part though is that Soul Striker is no longer going to be the, well, why aren't you playing Soul Striker leader, you know? Now, coming into here, you're gonna have a lot of people crop up to try to fill the void that a Soul Striker left. Many of them old, some of them new. One of them new, actually. The prime candidate is going to be Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta. This is a fan favorite. I personally do not believe this is by any means the best blue deck after Soul Striker gets dethroned. But people love SS4 Vegeta, and I think that goes to say something enough. Now, the thing I don't like about SS4 Vegeta is that if you start stuffing its leader swings, it's a normal deck. That it's almost a vanilla leader. Your leader draws 1 when it swings. It's a set 1 effect. But the thing is though, now more than ever, people are running more and more of these counter negates. I mean, if you counter negate Vegeta, he untaps on his awakened side, but then you can block it with the counter negate. Dark Broly always is able to handle his name by putting a 30k blocker on the board. There are other decks that will be able to do things. And if this deck tomorrow became tier 0, everybody would just start running as many free blockers and counter negates as possible, and your leader would go back to being irrelevant. So Vegeta is there as a fan favorite. I just think he's got more of the popularity vote than the hard statistic and, like raw power. Now granted, when it comes to pure blue ramp, not gimmicky ramp like Android 16, Vegeta is the only one of his kind that does it effectively. I'm not going to count Kale. So Vegeta is going to be able to ramp effectively, and after ramping effectively, he's going to be able to get into blues in-game quicker than any other deck, provided his gimmick goes off. And that's dangerous to other players because blue has some very powerful late-game cards. Next, we got Android 16. Android 16 is kind of a gimmick, but the thing is, Android 16 has a lot of lines of play that other people don't understand unless they've sat down and played against the deck extensively or played it themselves. So that being said, Android 16 has the ability to be very popular rogue. It is a blue leader, and so I think it will go in. The deck is able to play from its energy, and that's going to be a massive help versus decks like Cell, who are going to try to rip your hand. Even cooler to that degree, who's going to be able to take chunks out of your hand. So I think that's actually a very, very good boon for Android 16. Next one I want to talk about is actually the new not the new Soul Striker, the new SSG Goku. There's been a lot of very, very gimmicky, beat 'em down, rush out, Kaioken based attacks. And I don't want to say that this one's going to be dominant. However, lots of blue, like blue as a color, is a meta color. It's not exactly how strong it is, it's how popular it is. And just to be clear, like, most of these decks will have the popular vote, not the, oh, this deck is certifiably at the top of tier 1 vote. And once again, we're looking at SSG Goku as one of them. This is a deck where if it got to be close to tier 0 or the top of tier 1, you could side and easily crush. But with it being the way it is and it being able to pick up as fast as it can, you will have some times where you get absolutely devastated if you don't respect this deck. So keep them negates in, boys, and watch out for the deck that just sits here and cantrips and combos and goes into Kaioken and swings like a gajillion times. Also loops Sign. That's very strong, bouncing all your stuff back. Now, you also have Bojack. Bojack is an end-game Mega King. Cards are coming out. He's got mad combo. Bro can forego his ability to use counters in order to combo harder past a certain point. Awakens off of a 4-drop. Unison, so Majin Buu on deck. This deck is a deck where turns 1, 2, and 3 and turns 4, 5, and 6 are completely night and day. And I don't think a lot of people are going to flock to it. I think it's going to be powerful rogue. The deck takes a bit of know-how to play, but the deck also isn't necessarily as in-your-face flashy, and you don't use your resources the same way a lot of people do. But it has access to the almighty galactic buster. So I do think that Bojack will see play. Shoutouts to Big Annotation for spreading the gospel. But I think Bojack will see play. I just don't think it's going to be as popular as some of the ones I mentioned before. Last but not least, out of the new ones, and actually I lied, it's not last and not least, you got Gamma 1 and Gamma 2. I started talking about it briefly on the podcast. It happened a little late this week because between the last 2 weeks where George was swamped with work, I was not feeling well this Monday. So that is what it is. But we talked about it. The podcast should be up yesterday. However, I'm not sure because since that a rotation, it may take a little longer for George to complete it. I'm not sure. But Gamma 1 and Gamma 2 is very interesting. It's got an untapped 3 at the end of turn effect tied to a draw 1. And so the energy economy in this deck isn't as good as Soul Striker, or isn't as free as Soul Striker, but it's in some cases better because you're basically SS3ing your opponent. You're just opening up 3 energy at the end of their turn, and you also draw 1. This is going to allow you to go super, super ham on the defense and allow you to play completely on curve every single turn. In fact, there's no real reason to leave energy up for the most part. So you go on, you play on curve, packed by a swarm of androids, a dual attacker android, one of the most snapped unisons that's come out in a very long time. The Cell, which is going to dual attack. This deck is able to play Blue's defensive game, including Hatch, but also play on your opponent's turn with all the defensive plays you can do, your counters. They've got an in-theme topo. They have access to Android 18, let the battle begin. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can do on your opponent's turn, but on your turn you can swing to the fences. And so because of this, I do think Gamma is going to be a prime choice for Blue next set. I know I'm having a lot of fun testing it. Then last but not least, you got Soul Striker itself. It ain't going nowhere. It's still gonna be usable. Just saying. But yeah, the format has shifted a little bit more to a mid-game format that stretches into late game, but there will be some aggro. Red has always proved to be very strong against Blue because of its ability to pressure it before it can get everything online on turn 3. Well, now Soul Striker can play 2-drop unisons instead of 3, and that may change the landscape for a lot of its playstyle. However, currently the best red deck in the game is not a deck that's going to kill you on turn 3. It's going to kill you on turn 5 generally, maybe even 6. So U7 Goku is not going to provide the same threat that King Piccolo would, that King Vegeta used to, that U7 Gohan could, and so Blue's red matchup may be a completely different ball game right now. Able to just completely hang in there until turn 4, and then you start being able to dirty burst their ultra masteries and really play off of what you can do on the board. So I am interested to see where Blue is going to be heading. I think that Gamma is very strong, and I think that Bojack is strong, and I think that 16 is strong. I think SS4 is a little too gimmicky for me, and I think Soul Striker may be a little too fragile for me right now. And I definitely think that Blue will be seen in the upcoming meta. I think there's only really one color that I would say is probably going to fade out of the meta for a little bit until next set, but we'll get to that when we get to it. So I wanted to thank you guys for watching. Like I said, if you like the content, think about going down and hitting that subscribe button. Join this quadrant of the UniX fam. Just in case you want to see some other stuff, I am doing some My Hero Ultra Impact content on UniX Mag, and in about a day or two, I think 2 days, because I have plans this weekend. But 2 days I'll be summoning for the Dragon Ball Legends anniversary. So that should be fun. It's their 4th anniversary, and they're releasing for the first time ever Mastered Ultra Instinct Goku. So, with that being said, it is time for me to go. I hope you guys like the content, and I will see you the next time you decide to join Universe X. Later.